Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. This is a really remarkable attendance we have. Very important things to discuss. Thank you all very much for being here and being concerned for this meeting today. I just want to start by just introducing, there's a fair number of you here whom we don't typically see at board meetings. You might not be familiar with the various directors. So to my left, this is Mike Rankin. He is the board vice president. To my immediate right is Steve Verhart. He is our treasurer. To his right is Bruce Brashears, who is the secretary, and the lady is Rose Spitzer. We are waiting on Jack Worcester, who we understand will be here in about 5 minutes, but we're going to get started nonetheless. So with that, I just want to, we're here today because we've got some very, very significant issues that we're facing here as a community. We have a number of our amenities, a number of our buildings in various serious stages of disrepair, and you all have every right to be fully apprised of that, of the condition. You all have every right to weigh in with meaningful input today and going forward regarding that. Make no mistake about it, the members are going to be full partners in this process going forward. We're going to have a number of town halls planned. This is just the first. I don't think that anything conclusive will be decided from this. This is more just to get the ball rolling. Just to get the ball rolling so that everybody is on the same page and understands what we're facing, and we will have our subsequent meetings based upon what transpires. I want to make very sure that you understand that your voices will indeed be heard. There will be ample opportunity for that. The matters at hand, the most immediate matters at hand, are 3 buildings: the community center, the Hartman building, also known as the restaurant and Mulligan's and the Pro Shop, and our maintenance building. All of these are in advanced stages of disrepair. We also are going to be discussing the lake and the sediment buildup that has accumulated over 45 to 50 years. It has never been addressed. It is part of the problem. It too must be addressed, however. All right, just to give you an idea of the process that we're going to be doing today, we're going to start with our, did I introduce Interim General Manager Rod Wood? I'm sorry, my apologies to Rod. Rod is going to start the ball off. He's going to be giving us an overview of the specific problems we're facing, the buildings and the lake, so as to set the stage for an informed discussion going forward. He will probably take between 30 to 45 minutes to accomplish that. After that, each director will in turn be given an opportunity to give their thoughts, their views, in a sort of global 30,000-foot altitude type of manner. We're not looking for minutia at this point, but we do want to know, and we want you to know, where every director stands on these issues. I think you have every right to know what every director thinks and believes in this process going forward. So there will be no structure to that, but they will have each 5 to 10 minutes to give their initial thoughts. I will be the last one who does that. Following this, we'll be opening it up for questions from the members. We'll have handheld mics, we'll have file cards for questions to be written down, and we're here till 5 o'clock today. If we have questions until 5, we will be here until 5. So everyone will have their chance. I will say this, these are all matters that everyone has very strong feelings about, feels passionately about, and you all are entitled to having those feelings. We certainly respect your right to have those feelings. Nonetheless, if we are to succeed in this process, there will need to be decorum, and that includes civility and respect for opinions differing from your own. That is a must. We must have that. If we do have that, we'll be fine. It's going to be incumbent that decorum starts with me as board president. I don't know, did I introduce myself? I'm Doug Berman, board president. I'm just a guy walked in off the street and saw a empty microphone. I am the board president. That decorum must start with me. It must include all the board members, and it must include all members in the audience. I think we can accomplish a lot if we follow those very basic and very civil rules of the road for this process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rod Wood, and he is going to give you your introduction to the issues we're facing. It's all yours, Rod.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is not a meeting where that is required. You're welcome to pledge if you wish.
It's on our agenda.
It's on our agenda? Okay. Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. Where's the flag? There it is. Okay.
Over here.
There's a flag there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah! Okay, we're going to get started. Once again, decorum from everyone, please. Rod, the floor is yours.
Okay, just a little house cleaning so everybody knows. First, we do thank you for attending because communities only work when people are involved. We apologize for the crowdedness. This was the largest room available to us, and this was the most amount of chairs that they had, so that was the best that we were able to do in the area. We do have copies of the agenda over by the wall on your left. Let's see, number 4 is there are refreshments, some coffee and water and cookies, since this is going to be a long meeting. We wanted to make sure we had something there for you. We also have 3x5 cards on the table, so if you don't want to ask your question into a microphone, you can fill out a 3x5 card, and those will be brought up here periodically, and we'll respond to those questions as well. Over here on this side of the room are the restrooms. Hopefully the doors are opened. Earlier today, when you go through this door, it locks behind you and you have to go outside. So if that happens to you, go outside, turn right, and you'll come in those doors right back there in the process. When the questions and answers come, we have staff members who will have microphones, so we'll bring the microphone right to you in the audience. We also will have, there are some handouts that were given to you when you came in, both a copy of the legal opinion as well as my report will be available after the presentation between the breaks so that you can take it home and read through it if you choose. We'll also be posting that on the website. All of the reports that I've referred to are posted on the website. And most of them have been for, I think, about a month now, but everything that we have has been posted on the website, and we will continue doing that throughout the process. At some point, as a favor to everybody, probably particularly the people up here, we'll take a break in the process. And the reason we need to end by 5 for certain is this room is otherwise booked. So we do have to clear so that they can clear the room. Okay. There's 3 issues that we're going to discuss today, and in the following order: the status of the swimming pool opening, the lake sediment and dredge project, and then at last the 3 buildings that are the primary focus. So some good news on the pool. We were able to work with the county environmental health department to allow portable toilets and to classify them as temporary. The difference is otherwise we'd have to have portables that met the California building codes, and those are really, really hard to find. In fact, we only found 1 manufacturer of them, and that was going to be a lead time that would get us past this year in its entirety. What we've worked out is initially, because rental units are quicker to get on site, we're going to rent the facilities, which cost about $25,000 a month, and hopefully, let me finish. this is good news, about $25,000 a month. To buy the units is $100,000. So if you look at the 3 to 4 possible pool seasons that we may need these facilities, it's obviously much cheaper to purchase those facilities. So we'll rent them. Hopefully we'll have the purchased ones here in a month, so we'll only invest that $25,000 or $50,000 for those first couple of months. We'll replace those with the permanent ones for $100,000. Now, at the end of the process, the normal price for resale of those units has been about half price. So we should be able to get about $50,000 back. With the building closed, we'll also be saving quite a bit of cost on the operation of the building, which we estimate will be about $45,000 to $50,000 a year. So net, it could be as much as zero actual cost to us. But in a worst-case scenario, it could be as much as $100,000 over the 3 or 4 pool seasons. Having said that, we are optimistic, not certain. You know, you don't have complete control over these things. We have a lot of utilities and infrastructure to put in, but we are optimistic that we'll get the pool open on June 20th for the start of the lessons. So that's where we are on the pool. And Ben, we're going to do the dredge and sediment project first. The consultant that prepared the report, before we set the date of this town hall meeting, had made plans to, he and his wife, to go to Europe, and for whatever reasons he decided he didn't want to cancel that. He did make his official report to the board last month, and so we're going to give the kind of a summary overview from his slides on that. I can probably answer most of the questions, but I'm not a biologist, so if we get into those kinds of questions, we'll just have to take your questions. We'll get the responses from him, and then we'll put those on the website. Also, all the questions that come up today we'll be posting on the website so that we can, so that you'll be able to see the questions and that. And we've had quite a few questions come in already that we'll try to respond to today as well on the web. Okay. We'll move the flag. Again, we apologize for anybody that can't see, because when the slides are up, you may have to stand up and go over there or whatever, but...
And Director Jack Worcester has just joined us.
I always make a grand entrance.
This is the area of the lake and kind of the sediment patterns that have occurred. Because of the currents in the lake, the sediment has mostly settled in the perimeter of the lake. If you live on the lake and you have a boat, you know that in the process. Next. This is a picture of the depth of the lake. The deepest end of the lake is about 70 feet deep, and that's the dark blue towards this side of the screen. Next. Okay. What's been done? We have had a feasibility study done. We've had sediment characterization, heavy metals analysis. We've talked to the permitting agencies. There's several permitting agencies we have to get permits from to do anything. We've actually received very positive feedback from them on at least a couple of our proposals. Contact with property owners that we may have to, if we haul off site, we have to have a place to put it, and we'll come to what those solutions are. The design also looked at how do we keep this from continuing to happen and bearing this expense periodically, and what really needs to occur is some sediment traps need to be built upstream on Coyote Creek to prevent this. We are engaged with Caltrans, who is the person who is creating much of the sediment issues from the road construction and the continuing landslides and failures along that road. That's where most of that sediment has come from. And we do believe they have a lawful duty to participate in the cost of not only the sediment basins, but in the dredging project. But if you've ever worked with Caltrans, that's an interesting process. Pros and cons, and okay, next. We did sediment sampling from the lake itself at 12 different locations, and the good news on all of our sampling is that the heavy metals and other toxins that you worry about being in the sand and the sediment itself aren't there. We're in good shape. It's mostly sand and then some clays, which makes disposal a lot easier. Otherwise, it could be classified as toxic waste and have to be hauled to a toxic landfill, which would be astronomically expensive. Next. There's different proposals, and the first proposal is to, these are out of order, so I guess I'll just look at the screen. The concept of the first dredging project is you set up screens around the perimeter of wherever you put the dredging device. This is just examples of how it would work so that the sediment doesn't go back out into the lake and disturb the fish and other aquatic life that's there, and then gets pumped to a station to be either removed or redeposited. Next. Again, that's the depth of the lake. Next. Okay, the first alternative well, that's the pros and cons. Next. These are the agencies that we have to go through to get approval for anything that we do. And those studies and permits will require probably an additional $70,000 to $90,000 in the cost of the project, and that's been built in. Next. Okay, alternative one is dredge in-lake sediment disposal. This is where we would take the dredge from the perimeter and place it into the deepest end of the lake. If we did that, that would fill that portion of the lake from 70 feet. It would elevate it about 2 feet based on 30,000 cubic yards, which is what we believe is there. But we also did a study on worst case 60,000 cubic yards, and that would elevate it about 4 feet. Not only has our biologist looked at that, but we've also had Steve Agostini, who's been on the Lake Committee and is just really amazingly knowledgeable person on these things, also look at it to make sure our interests are being protected in that process. That project would be a cost of $669,229. Now that's just for the dredging. This doesn't include the sediment pond. That's an additional cost, but well worth whatever you do, and I'm hopeful that we can get Caltrans to pay for that. The budget right now is about $400,000, just to give you a sense of where the budget is, and the initial budget. This is the cheapest solution by a wide margin, and it's, like I said, $669. Next.
By budget, I think you mean that we have $419,000 earmarked for it. Would that
That's
be correct?
correct, in the current reserve budget for the work. Again, this is just to show that would pull out the dirt here, pump it over to here, and put it down to here, and they'd build nets around it and build diffusers, so again, it doesn't affect the aquatic life. Next. So, the second alternative is this is down on Hartman Road, and we would build trap basins here to place the sediment, and it would be slurried in a pipe with water down to here. That would, of course, cause a lot of water to be needed, and the lake would be drained quite a bit during that process, and it wouldn't be until the next rainy season that the lake would be able to refill. Next. That's just, again, another layout of how it works. So if we were to place it on the Porter property, we did the percolation test. You actually have to dig a trench, put the dirt in there, let it dewater, and it has to percolate into the ground because you're not allowed to have that water run off into the stream beds unless you pre-treat it, meaning you completely clean it. So the solution would be to build these ponds and let the water settle in, and then after all the water settled out, you'd grade it. Okay, next. Next. Okay, this is the second proposal, which is to place it on the Porter property. So you'd run a pipe from the dam all the way out and into the Porter property and place it there. And the cost of that is $962,000 as opposed to the $600,000+. Next. Again, a picture of them dosing it. Next. We'll put all this up on the web. I think it already is, so that you can go to it. And we'll put the full report, not just the slides. Next. Okay, the next slide is if instead of using a dredge unit, we brought in backhoe, the large dredger back buckets, and dug the dirt out and put it into trucks to haul off. And this reflects the cost of digging it out mechanically and putting it in the back of trucks, and that would be $1.6 million. Probably not our favorite choice. In addition, what this doesn't reflect is if it doesn't go like on the Porter property, where does it go? Right now, we don't have an alternate site. We have found no one volunteering to take that quantity of dirt. If we actually had to dispose of it at a landfill or something, that would be very, very, very expensive. Probably at least another $500,000 to do that. So because you have trucking cost, plus you'd have about 200 trucks a day coming in and out of our roads. That would virtually destroy the roads, and we'd have to rebuild the roads. Next. 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 You can see that process. Next. Next. Okay, alternative 4, one of the members of the Lake Committee, several years ago, they'd come up with a solution, which was to slurry the material upstream to Coyote Creek, what is it, what's the street up there? I'm going to forget it.
Spruce Grove.
Spruce Grove Road, thank you, sorry about that. That's what you get for having a temporary person. And at Spruce Grove Road, and what the cost of that would be. And then you would dry it up there, you'd slurry it up, because the water then in theory can go back into the creek and back into the lake. You would have to pre-treat that water, because you're not allowed to just dump it in. The land we'd have to store it on is actually Caltrans property, so we'd have to work out permission with them on that. Next. Next. And next. Next. The cost of that solution is $983,000. Now, this assumes that the dredge equipment comes in one time and is able to handle it. The site is fairly small. We don't know how close Caltrans would let us get to the highway. It could take as many as 3 times doing that, 3 years to do that. Each time that dredge equipment comes out, it's another $100,000. So the cost could be higher depending on what we can work out with Caltrans, and that's an unknown at this point. Right now, the only dredge equipment that we can find that's small enough for us to get it in through Little Beach comes from North Carolina. So they have to literally drive it all the way out. All the other dredges in the area on the West Coast are too large to get onto the site. Okay, and that's pretty much the summary. This is Spruce Grove Road up here, and this is the Caltrans property, and then there's a little basin in here that could be dug out. And what would happen is as the materials come in from upstream, it would settle in this basin, and then this would be hauled off periodically so that none of this sediment gets back into the lake in the future, so that you don't have to face this again. Literally, this probably could solve the problem for about 200 years before you had the next time you needed to do something. And again, we're hoping to get Caltrans not only to construct this, but to maintain it. So that's our goal.
Okay, so to summarize, what is the range of the options? What, 660,000?
660 to 1.6, plus whatever cost that we hope to have Caltrans pay for the sediment basin. The sediment basin is, as I recall, was around 600,000 or 700,000.
And with varying degrees of probably efficacy associated with the various projects, alternatives rather.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So now you can turn that off.